All right. So let's get started.
All right. So again, I'm Brian Dino. I'm the digital coach for the Northwest region. And in this breakout session, we're gonna tell you in just a moment specifically what we'll be showing you and demonstrating you. There'll also be a chance for you to work on your own if you want, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. Just an overview of checks for understanding, what they are. If you're not familiar with them, they're essentially small formative assessments that help you guide your teaching and allows you a check for understanding or CFU allows you to make mid-course corrections for whole group instruction, small group instruction, and as some of the participants indicated earlier, for targeted supports, which my kids need a specific report, specific differentiated instruction. So if you want to know more about this, there is a link there to an extensive document which has multiple strategies. We're only going to cover a couple of those strategies, but there's a link there from the Marshall organization.
All right. So I can't seem to get our video to load for some reason today. So I'm just going to go over a little bit about what the video stated. So why use checks for understanding? So self-grading checks for understanding give immediate feedback to students and teachers. They increase student autonomy and accountability more discreetly than cold calling. They give you a quick way to determine a baseline for your group for the day, depending on the subject area you're teaching. And then they can also save you grading energy for the products that actually count, which we all know is wonderful and extremely helpful when it comes to grading.
And again, there's 6 mindsets for culturally responsive educators. And today, for this professional learning session, we're focusing on the one mindset called my responsibility, which says that I am responsible for the academic and social emotional success of all my students. And the DPS practice that helps with that is, again, frequently collecting student work, analyzing student data for traditionally marginalized student groups, finding those learning gaps, and then checking your classroom instruction that can create those gaps and developing an action plan that addresses that. I have a question for the group here, and it's highlighted, or it's actually boxed in there on the slide. If you could just let us know in the chat, or you feel free to just speak if you want to. How do you think regularly using checks for understanding supports this DPS mindset of my responsibility? So if you have some thoughts on that, you just put them in the chat or just speak to us. Again, how do you think using checks for understanding supports this DPS mindset of my responsibility for my kids?
I can speak.
Thank you.
Okay. So I teach second grade literacy, and this reminds me that as I'm teaching whole group lessons, it's my responsibility to gauge and figure out where my students are with their understanding before I move on. So if they're not comprehending the text, then like if I'm teaching main idea, if they're not understanding the main idea, then I shouldn't move on. And same thing in small groups. When I'm teaching a small guided reading group, I can't bump students up a level if they're not ready for it. So it is imperative that we do consistently and constantly check for understanding.
I can speak as well. I think the part with the social emotional as well, sometimes when kids aren't getting it, obviously you don't want to cold call them or embarrass them. Maybe they don't want to say anything. So this way it's more anonymous, I guess, but you still get a feel of where they're at.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll just share from the morning session. We know the environment our educators are under right now. We had a participant earlier express it. It's tough in this current climate, especially a lot of schools. Teachers are covering classes and less time for planning. So again, trying to do this is a daunting challenge right now, but checking for understanding is a key component of this responsibility.
And one of the things to think about as we go through this session today is to think the strategies that we present to you are the first step towards this, right? So your next steps of actually taking that data and utilizing it in the classroom, if that's something that we are struggling with or could use a little bit more guidance in, your digital coach is here to help you with that as well. And if you don't know who that is quite yet, you can let us know. But this is just something to think about, how to use these strategies as we go over them and how to utilize the data that we glean from them and change or alter our instruction to fit the needs of our students. So if you've been in one of our PLs before, we are going to follow the same kind of outline where we are going to have our independent and work time expectations mapped out here for you. You have two options today. Excuse me. You can follow along with Brian and I as we go through our two strategies for Google Forms and Kahoot. You are welcome to also work independently. So if you do work independently, the expectation is that you feel confident and comfortable navigating these two tools and have some ideas about how you can kind of start incorporating them into your future lessons. You can look at the tools, they're linked right there below. And then one of the things that we really want to focus on during our PL is workshop time. And so we want you to be able to use these tools to create your own self-grading checks for understanding today. So if you do choose to follow along with us, we'll go through our slide deck and look through the strategies together. Otherwise, feel free to turn off your camera and work on one of the strategies that we have presented to you. And then at 11 o'clock, we will have you come back, maybe like 10:55, we'll have you guys come back to this screen and we will do a reflection and just talk about, some things that we learned from today. And then the other groups will come back together and into this meet and we will finish up together at 11. So if you are going to follow along with us, we will get started now.
Okay, so I'm going to review two features of Google Forms, which can help you check for understanding. So Google Forms has a feature called Answer Feedback. I'm going to show you how you might use that. And it also has a feature called Branching Forms. So I will show you that live. And again, you're also welcome to explore these independently on your own. All right, so first, an overview of Google Forms. Again, you can do custom quizzes. It is free. It is part of our Google Workspace for Education license. You have multiple question types. You can use multimedia on the forms. You can have collaborators, fellow teachers help you design the forms, edit them. And the one nice features is, again, instant feedback. You can see those in graph format or spreadsheet format. So some of the features of Google Forms. And Google Form can also allow you, but before you're kicking off a lesson, to assess the kid's background knowledge, where you're starting at. So one of our 8 a.m. session participants said she has 500 kids that she sees as part of her specials rotation, and they are at many different levels. And so one of her first things she does is trying to assess where their starting point is so she can meet them where they're at. And then at any point during the lesson, you can also use the Google Form to see if students are engaging with the content. And then certainly after the lesson, via an exit ticket, you can use the Google Form to see if you need to reteach or how you proceed from there. So that's how Google Forms can be used throughout the lesson delivery. And so let me show you the first feature of Google Forms that can help you with this. It's called Answer Feedback. And let me share my screen with you here. And so here we go. So here's a form that gives automatic answers to students. So let's say you have a group of students in a small group, and they're studying a concept, and at the end you want them to be independent and say, now here's how you're going to check your learning, and if you're not quite where you need to be, please follow along while I work with this team over here. But this form will allow you to give specific instructions or specific answers, give them specific feedback to the answers they give on the form. So on the form here, this is a question I've set up. But let's say you're covering a math topic of converting coins into decimals, and I just want to see if they get it. So I'm asking a question: what is a quarter written as a decimal? I want to check their understanding of this, and I've set up a form here. The question again is, what is a quarter written as a decimal? There are 3 answers here. I have selected this, the correct answer here. Let me, I've set up the question. And now before I test this out, let me just show you something in the settings here for the form. The settings for this form here, I've made it a quiz. And if you want to provide answer feedback, you have to make it a quiz. You don't have to make every form a quiz, but for answer feedback, you do need to make it a quiz. Some of the other settings on this, you can have kids review their answers immediately or later. That's up to you. Here's a feature that's used by some teachers. It's locked mode. And locked mode does what it says. It's you can see that respondents, they cannot open other tabs on their Chromebook, and they're locked in to the form itself, so they can't Google the answers. And this only works on a DPS managed Chromebook. So like most, I think 99% of our schools have these DPS to manage Chromebooks. So this feature will work on it. If your students have, I think if they have iPads or if they have their own personal devices, it will not work. But it will work on DPS managed Chromebooks. And if you're worried about kids wandering while you're giving them a quiz, then use locked mode. Other features, you can let them see the missed questions or the correct answers, point values, responses. You can change those settings. You can limit to 1 response if you want. It's up to you. And a few other features there. So those are the settings. Getting back to this one question, I've selected the correct answer. And now, if I come down to my answer key, I've also put in the feedback for their answers. So the first thing I've done is for a correct answer, I put in just a message, hey, great job, you may now read a book. And for incorrect answers, I've given them instructions. Watch the video below and read about the method. You can also put in a link into notes or other resources. It doesn't have to be a video. So that's the feedback for correct answers. And again, Google knows which one to send them to based on what correct answer you have provided. So let's take a look at how this looks for the user. So I'm going to go up and preview this form. And here's the preview. This is what a student would see. We'll collect their DPS email. And what is a quarter written as a decimal? Let's say they try 0.5, submit it, and they go to view their score, and they realize, oh, X, it's the wrong answer. And the feedback here is, hey, watch the Bridges video to help you understand or read about the method. So then they would watch that content, and hopefully relearn the concept. Again, it doesn't need to be a video. Any resource you want to put in there will suffice. And they could submit another response. Let's say they relearn the concept. What's a quarter written as a decimal? And they select 0.25. And they check their score. And now the feedback is, great job. You may now read a book. So that's answer feedback. And you can make this as complex as you want, answer as many questions, give as much feedback, and could be very suitable for, again, if you're trying to get kids to work independently in a small group setting while you're working with other students. So they're moving on that road to independent learning. Here is that what they would see if they got the correct answer. If they got the correct answer, the feedback I provided is, great job, you may now read a book. Okay, so that is an example of using an answer feedback in a Google form if you want to help kids check their own understanding. And now going to show you another feature, Google Forms, that will help you in CFUs, and that is branching forms. So if you wanted to direct kids to different resources based on their answers. So let's show you what branching form looks like. I will present that now. So let's just say you've done a math unit and you want to just get the kids to commit to you in writing. Are you ready for the math test? All right, I really want to know, are you ready for the math test? So here's your form that you can set up. You can see I'm asking just that question. You ready for the math test on Friday? And 3 simple answers. You can, again, use any question you want. I know a lot of teachers using this for SEL gauging as kids enter the room. How are you feeling today? But anyway, this is more academic focused. Are you ready for a math test on Friday? Yes, somewhat, or no. And a branching form, based on what they answer, I'm going to send them to a different section. So what does that look like? Let me just show you this. So this is the student view. Are you ready for the math test on Friday? Let's say they say, somewhat. They go to next. Then they are brought to this section of the form that says, watch the video below to help you prepare for the test. And then they can watch a video. They can also read a resource. And then it says, now after watching the video, now are you ready to take the math test on Friday? And if they say yes, say next. It would send them to a section saying, you're ready for the test. Cool. You may now either read a book at your desk or grab a fun kit from the prize area. And then they could submit that and be done with that form. So that's branching forms, and how it looks is the setup shown here. Here's my main question, and there's a section down below on the bottom 3 dots of the question where it says go to section based on answer. That's where the branching is set up. So I'm sending them to a different section based on how they answer this form. If they answer yes, you can see I send them to section 3, which is down here, and they get this message that says, hey, you're ready for the test. And you can customize that however. If they say somewhat or no, I send them to section 2, which is the not ready section, and they get this message. And they get a little more instruction on how to prepare for the test. So that's an example of branching. Let me show you one other thing. If you're new to Google Forms, under responses, every time a student submits, you can go to responses and you can see who has responded. In this case, I have a student who's responded twice, and I have 3 total responses. You can see what they've responded and how many points they've gotten. So this will give you more data. If you have a lot of kids, like most teachers, you can click on the spreadsheet and it will dump all of the answers into a spreadsheet so you can look at it in spreadsheet view and see how kids are doing. So those are the responses. And again, as I showed before, you can cover all the settings for the form, and here there's multiple settings you can use. So that is branching forms, which will give you the ability to customize student answers. Okay.
All right, we ready?
I think we're ready for the next set.
Awesome. All right, let me share my screen. All righty, everybody. So next strategy we're going to talk about today is Kahoot. So for those of us in elementary, which most of us should be, Kahoot has been a large part of my routines when I was in the classroom. And here's a little bit about what and why we are thinking that this would be a great check for understanding for our students. So what is Kahoot? So Kahoot is a game-based learning platform that makes it easy to create, share, and play learning games or trivia quizzes. It is a learning platform that provides instructors with the ability to further create a class discussion and student-to-student interactions. And then why it would be a great platform to use for our checks for understanding. It motivates and activates student learning, boosts that student engagement, participation, and their motivation. And then it also has a high percentage of reducing student anxiety. We talked about that cold call and how that is sometimes brings a little bit of stress to students. So this is a great way to utilize a tool that is anonymous until you go through and look at the reports at the end. That top blue dotted box, I have a little bit more. I've linked to the Kahoot website that gives a little bit more information about what Kahoot is and how you can utilize it in your classroom. So for those of us that have not used Kahoot before, this is just a brief overview. When you log into Kahoot, they have a huge selection of options here for you to be able to use things that have already been created by others. So definitely keep from reinventing the wheel if you can. Some awesome features that Kahoot offers is it can be self-paced. It can where students can work on it independently. You can also teach it as a whole class option. You can design a Kahoot on your own using, when you go into the Discover, you can search up Kahoot options that other people have made, or you can go into your own library and create a Kahoot yourself. There is a wide variety of resources already in there. This is just an example. I was looking for a morning check-in. I could tell you there was 15 pages worth of morning check-ins already designed. And then really awesome, easy ways to be able to figure out how to add it to your library, edit it, put it up on the screen to play it, and then or assign it to your students. So really quick, easy checks for understanding possible here. Just a little outline for you of what it looks like for students and for the presenter. So the box on the left is the presenter view. It sets up with the question. The answers are color coded with a symbol. Student view is so it's not so much writing on the screen. They just choose the color and symbol correlated to the answer. And then at the end, you can see that podium. And then you can see how many questions students got correct out of the total. When it comes to check for understanding, there's some features here. There's 2 slides parts to this. This is kind of an outline summary or report, excuse me, for what you would see when you're done with your questions. So for some examples here, we have one of the cool features of Kahoot. It gives you what's difficult questions. Difficult questions doesn't mean that you have said that they are difficult, excuse me. it is a report, like the report that you pull up needs to have at least 3 difficult questions for that even to be an option here, which means that if a question is labeled as difficult, it is because less than 35% of the students answered it correctly. So again, you're not going to label it difficult. Your report is going to label it so you can see if there are some tough questions that you might need to revisit with your students. Another cool option with these reports is you can see who didn't finish. That's assigned when you do the assigned version of Kahoot, and then who needs help. So you can see how there are a couple students' names. You can look at Carol on there and see her outlined report or data on the right-hand side. And that just kind of initially sends you right to, okay, so these are my top 3 students that I really need to focus on right now when it comes to this question or this assessment. Some more cool options on your report. If you look at the top picture, you see the 3 dots. You can download the report, print it, and then look at some of the other reports, which is pretty awesome. Other features of our reports here is you can see who got the questions correct, what time it took for them to answer it, and how many points they received for that question. Some questions can be assigned a type. So some information, some are informational and others are just facts or info. And you can look at the percentage of students that got the questions correct and incorrect by looking at the data on the right-hand side. Now, this would be our time where we can play a Kahoot. That's entirely up to you guys. Yeah, Kahoot. I just did a fun interactive option. If you want to play along, we'll do it for just like 5 minutes, and then I want to give you all the time that you can to workshop today. So if you'd like, if you click on the image on in your slide deck, it brings you to animals in winter. Some cool facts in there, actually, that I didn't even know. The game pin is right there for you. And if you'd like to play along, great. I know Brian's going to play with me, so I'm going to have him log in, and I will share that with you too so you guys can see what it would look like.
Are there prizes?
No. I am not near you to give you. I will give you a golf clap.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop presenting this and present our other screen real quick so you guys can just see what I see for those of us that have not used it before. All right. And I will just go through this quickly. This is just a fun little activity if you're people that
I was going to join it, but
oh yeah, Adrian, go ahead. Do you need
where is the link?
So you just click, do you have the link to, if you just go to kahoot.it?
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, perfect. And then it just says game pin.
Game pin, where is it? Oh, I think I went to create instead. Hang on one second. Okay, there you go. Game
Got
pin,
it?
which
Awesome.
is, hang on, where's the game pin? 7241108.
Yeah, actually, you guys, I just had several teachers write that they have not used the reports before.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to even know those existed. I used Kahoot more as like an exploratory, just for fun, for quite some time until I really realized that you can actually see what students are learning. And when we became virtual last year, I was in the 2nd grade classroom, and I would have I would assign it to my students, and then I'd actually be able to go back and look at the report too. And that was
I've used it for like reviews and things like that, but I did not realize that either. So
I know I think this is a game changer for sure.
I know, it's awesome.
All right, so let's get started just for fun. Let's see what are some questions that we have for animals in winter. So again, let's see. This is a poll. So how do you stay warm in winter? This is a question that would not necessarily give you a correct or incorrect.
I'm seeing. Oh, there we go. Bundle up, drink.
Are you seeing the student view on your?
Yes,
Adrian. Okay, awesome. All right, so most people bundle up. I would agree. That's what I do as well. Quiz question. Reindeers in Russia are one of the furthest migrating land mammals. About how far do they travel? No one got it correct. I love it. 750 miles. Again, I didn't know most of these answers either, so this is pretty amazing. All right. This would be our leaderboard, but it looks like nobody's really
Nobody.
this way. Monarch butterflies fly south for the winter. Which country is their destination?
Oh, okay. I know that. I think.
Now we all think that you know. it.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Mexico. Adrian, did you get it correct?
I got it.
All right, good. Awesome. All right. You're on the leaderboard. There you go.
Uh-oh.
I know. Brian, get it together. Why do most grizzly bears hibernate in the winter? All right. Nice.
Oh, on the scoreboard.
I know. You're on it. All right.
I'm closing fast.
The black metal-tail hummingbird adapts to cold weather by lowering its body temperature to...
I think I know this one.
Oh, man. Good job, guys. 38 degrees Fahrenheit. That is crazy. Adrian, you're on fire.
I'm on fire.
That's my favorite part when kids are like,
Yeah,
play
they
it.
get super excited.
All right, let's see. Two more. Japan is home to the, I don't know how to say that, maquis, also known as snow monkeys. How do they stay warm in the winter? Mac. Anybody know how to say that name?
I can't remember. I don't know.
Me neither. It's okay.
Oh,
David Hot Springs. Oh, there's a picture that goes
the
along
picture.
with
Yeah.
Wow, that's the life.
Yeah,
Gotta
that
use those
is.
context clues, yeah.
Yeah, context clues. That's why it didn't show up right away. Some animals change to white in the winter to blend in. Which animal is an example? Ooh, love it.
Oh. Okay. I think. I don't know. I think I'm smart most of the time.
All right. I don't know where that quail is, but because it's hidden. All right, last question. Would you rather live in a place that's always summer or live in a place that's always winter?
After my experience driving over Wolf Creek Pass this past week, I'm going to pick summer.
Oh, wow.
The drive is not fun.
It was
How long-
horrible. Yeah.
How long did that take you, Adrian?
Going over it was fine. I got stuck in Durango, and my 4x4 went out on the summit of Wolf Creek Pass yesterday, and no, 2 days ago. And I had to put chains on, sliding down the thing, and I had to drive back down it and go down through Santa Fe.
Wow.
And then, yeah, it was super, super frightening and scary.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I'll pick summer.
Yeah, well, glad you made it.
Thank you.
So at this point, guys, thank you for participating. It was just a fun activity. So at this point, we have about almost 30 minutes for you guys to kind of workshop right now. So utilizing either Google Forms or Kahoot, take a look at some lessons that you might have coming up and try and incorporate those strategies into lesson planning. And Brian and I are here if you'd like to collaborate with us, but otherwise this is your time to work, and then we'll come back together for a reflection question about 10:55. As we finish up, I am going to put up our regroup and reflection question, and then I'll post it into the chat. I'll give you a few moments to kind of get back into the swing of it. And if you would like to share out your reflection, feel free. Otherwise, just put in the chat. So let me get this shared with you. Hold on. All right. Again, reflection question is in the chat for you. If you'd like to share out, feel free. Otherwise, please put your answer in the chat. The question is, how do you plan to use one of these tools that we went over today for a quick check for understanding?
Yeah, thank you for that, Ms. Hendricks. Yeah, the reports feature of Kahoot, very helpful. A lot of good data there. Same with Ms. Fritzmeyer.
Awesome. Got a couple of individuals talking about how they will use Kahoot for review, check, doing a quick check, and then Google Form to collect pre and post data, and then looking at using these checks for understandings during math. Doesn't matter how many times you use it, Emily, just as long as you start incorporating it, it'll start to become part of the routine, I'm sure. So just seeing what flows in your classroom. I'm going to real quick